Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ratliff Mandolins Weekly Production Diary. I am so glad that you have chosen to spend your next few minutes with me, and I will start this video by telling you kind of where we're at and what we're doing this week. And I'll start off by reminding you, if you're a regular watcher, from about 4 or 5 weeks ago, a little mention that I made of some raised beds that we put on the outside of the garden, big, long, huge telephone poles. Do you remember that? Well, that's kind of part of a spring cleaning campaign that's going on around here. I'm trying to improve the place, and we put those raised beds up outside, a couple of them, one in the back and one on the side of the building. Bonnie, believe it or not, has already got tomatoes and beans and all kinds of stuff in those things. So at least that much it's working. But some of the other jobs that I have in mind for my spring cleaning improvement is to get the outside of the building painted and the inside of the building as well. And all of these projects we've been kind of saving for the weekends and not trying to let that interfere with production here. So this past weekend, we actually got one side of the building outside painted, and we painted some of the floor on the inside. I've been wanting this floor painted. It's not been painted in probably almost 20 years, and it's getting pretty nasty, and I've been wanting to have the floor painted. So one of the other things that we did this weekend was in the big room in there, I have shoved all of the equipment over to one side and actually cleared out about 1/3 of the floor that I could paint, and painted that floor. And of course, when this coming weekend, we'll try to clear off some of the unpainted floor and paint that section. So we're winding up painting the floor in sections. So now I have mandolin number 7 and number 8 in this batch. Today's Tuesday, so I spent all day yesterday finishing the sanding. They've both been sanded to 220, and I leveled and radiused the fretboards, and so both of them are ready now to have frets put in. However, all of that equipment that we moved to paint the floor, it's covered up the entire area there where I usually do the fretting with the fret press and all that sort of thing. So that's going to have to be cleaned out and it shoved aside, and some of the stuff will be put back on the freshly painted floor and everything before I can even get in there to fret those two mandolins. So that is where I'm going to start early Tuesday today. I'll be going into the big room and cleaning out a spot and a slot where I can fret mandolins 7 and 8. And that also goes for, if you'll recall from last week's episode, I mentioned that we were going to be making truss rod covers this week if we've got time and it all works out. And so all of that area is covered up as well. So I can't even get to the saws or any of the shapers or anything right now. So any job that I want to do in the big room this week is going to have to be precluded by me cleaning up and being able to get to that area. So that's where we're going to start right now. I'm going to go in there, clean off the area where we painted this past weekend, and put the frets in mandolin number 7 and 8. Okay, so after about a half a day's labor of cleaning and straightening and moving and trying to get things ready in there in the big room and the fretting area, I'm pretty much ready to go. Of course, number 8 is cleaned and it's ready to go. Now I have number 7 ready to put frets in it. So we're going to put frets in both these mandolins right now. Number 7 first, and then number 8. And there is the first fret in mandolin number 7. And that is the last fret in mandolin number 7. And now all that's left is just cleaning up the edges, a little bit of fret dressing on the sides there, and we're in good shape, and this one's ready to move on. And now comes number 8, but it's pretty late on Tuesday afternoon, and I have people coming to play music this afternoon, and they'll be here in a few minutes. So I am going to work till they show up, but I doubt that I'm going to get very much farther. And now, you guessed it, mandolin number 8 and its first fret. Mandolin number 8 has its frets, and it is time for both of these mandolins, number 7 and number 8, to be wet down. They've already been 220 down all over, and it's time for that grain raising process where I just soak them with water to raise the grain and to find any kind of defects, which is, we're getting really close to about the last things you do before you put the stain on. So we're closing in on it. I'm going to look these things over real good one more time, wet them down, hang them on the wall, and go do something else while they dry. Now, the something else that I had planned to do was to make truss rod covers. But the fact of the matter is that big room in there is so tore up. You recall earlier we had to make room just to put the frets in, and the part where the area of the shop where all of the truss rod cover stuff is, and that work will be done, it's covered up as well. So I'm going to wet these things down, hang them on the wall, and for the rest of the day, I'm going to go back in there and work on trying to straighten that shop up a little bit where I can work in them. That's what we're going to do. I now have all of the jobs done. Both of these mandolins are ready for stain. I have stained the peg head. I put the end pin holder in so that we can hold it. I have taped up the fingerboard, the truss rod slot, and I put something in both F-holes so that we won't get overspray down into them. Everything's been sanded to 220 grit, and so they are ready for staining. Not only number 7, and I have put 7 on the fretboard tape, but number 8 as well, which is also marked so that you'll know number 8 on the fretboard tape. So it's a hand rubbed finish, single color without any sunburst. So let's do that. Okay, it's Friday morning. Yesterday afternoon, we got the stain on mandolins number 7 and 8, these mandolins behind me. And now they need to be cleaned off. They need to have the binding scraped clean, and they need to have the logo applied. And then we need to start putting on our clear coats. So that's going to be the main thing that I try to get done today. I finally, piddling with it all week, I think I finally got in the big room cleared out enough stuff that I can start working on those truss rod covers today if I have enough time. So we'll see how that goes. I'll check in with you one more time before we close this video off at the end of the day, just to see just how far I get. But for now, mandolin 7 and 8. Okay, well, I've unloaded all of the stuff and unpacked all the stuff that it takes to make truss rod covers. As you saw, I changed the bit from the flush trim bit that normally is on this machine to a beveled cut, and that's what I cut the truss rod covers with. I unpacked all of the other stuff, and I actually got as far as cutting a single test truss rod cover to make sure everything was working the way it's supposed to. And I'm going to leave it there, and we'll just we'll make this a feature for next week's video, is all of the steps that it takes to make truss rod covers. And for that, like I said, we'll leave it there. Thank you so very much for watching the video and spending a few minutes of your time with me. We'll look for you next week on the next episode of the Ratliff Mandolins Weekly Production Diary, and I hope to see you then. Bye.